Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dry Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur, and unfortunately, we have the distinct privilege of talking about Inter Miami's 1-1 loss to Nashville SC on Wednesday night. I say loss because even though on the field it was a draw, from an expectation and emotional perspective, this was clearly a loss. Now, it's been about 48 hours, almost 48 hours since the game ended. And I've gone through the 5 stages of grief. And I don't know if you heard, last time we were on the mic, it was the raw reaction immediately after the game. And I was in anger, which is the second stage of grief. But for those that don't know, you go from denial to anger to bargaining to something else to acceptance. And I have gotten to acceptance. So we will talk about the game. We'll talk about some other things going on around Inter Miami. I think we're going to keep it short about the game, get to awards early, and then have some bigger picture conversations with a little bit more of a sober reflection on where this team is at. How do we feel about Mascherano? How do we feel about the 2026 season? What do we do from here? Stuff like that. So that'll be the second half of the pod. And I found a silver lining that I can buy into. So we'll get into that as well. But for all of that, I'm Scotty. This is Saur. How are you feeling, my man?
I feel like I've had a completely different 48 hours compared to you because I've gone from absolutely raging to maybe less raging, angry still. And that's my only 2 stages of grief. More than anything, I think we've tried to put this episode off as much as possible. And unfortunately, we have a game again on Sunday. So this is the furthest we can push it. We'll try not to talk too much about the game, but it doesn't feel good. It was emotionally scarring. It was physically scarring by just how much my body heated up after that loss. I feel like I've recovered from the physical scarring. Emotionally, I'm still completely shattered. Now, it is part of football. This happens. We can't really do anything but move on from it. And I know you have a few silver linings, and I think I have my own, and maybe we have the same silver linings. But let's start into it, man, because the sooner we start, the sooner we'll finish.
No. We're putting this off as long as possible, and that will include another 10, 15 minutes because we got some other stuff to talk about first that are bigger picture stuff. I will just say, denial, anger. Sounds like you're still in anger, and that's okay. The third stage is bargaining, and maybe we're going to do a little bit of that together today. The fourth stage is depression, and that's what Ash, who says, I think we're at the hopeless stage. That's where Ash is. And then the fifth stage is acceptance, which is, unfortunately...
accepting that Mascherano is going to ruin our entire life.
Yes. And then Ash says, God bless you too for the rewatch. I will just say, did not rewatch this game. I did watch sort of an extended highlights. I watched all the big moments, but I was just... Not only was I not going to put myself through that again, it wasn't even an interesting game. Like, emotionally, it was painful, but the actual game was not that interesting either. So,
I watched the shortest highlights, which were 5 minutes, and I watched it in twice the speed. So I basically watched it for 2 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I watched the highlights. I did not watch the full game. I don't think I could have subjected myself to that torture again. But I think it told us everything we needed to know, regardless.
Well, and listen, we're not going to do a 30-minute breakdown like we normally do because A, we didn't rewatch the game, and we're going to be open and honest about that up front. But B, like I don't think anyone wants to relive that game.
It doesn't make sense. No.
It's no point. So we will go through some of the big moments, and we'll talk about player performances and awards. But let's start with some hopefully happier things. Inter Miami actually made 2 signings this week. One, this kid that we talked about seemingly a lifetime ago, even though it was probably 9 days ago, Matias Acevedo. He's a just recently turned 18-year-old from Racing Club in Argentina. He was signed on loan by Inter Miami, officially by the B team. Now, we talked about him briefly last week. He has made 1 appearance for the Racing senior team, and he's not even a starter for the B team. And so while he has sort of been in and around Argentine youth national team camps, This is not a guy that's ready to break into the Inter Miami's first team. This is not a guy that's ready to make an impact. So if you saw that on Twitter, like I want you all to just have low expectations for what he could and will be. He is not even going to be allowed to be on the A team, at least until the summer, because A, they have no room for him. B, they have no international roster slot for him. So you're not even going to see the kid for at least 6 months, but probably longer than that. But I guess if you are a diehard and you're interested in the academy, like, and you watch the B team games, Matias Acevedo is a young number 10 type, I guess. Small, like I think he's 5'7" or something like that. But I guess someone to keep on the radar for the Inter Miami sickos that some of us are.
This was exactly what we expected it to be. This was going to be a second team signing. I didn't expect him to be a signing for the first team. He's too young, unproven, and looks like he's a signing for the future. So for me, I wasn't surprised that we got him into the second team. And as I'm talking, my frames are giving up on me. So I'll stop there.
You sound fine, for the record.
I am trying to look for the name of the defender that Inter Miami signed from Boca Juniors all those years ago.
His name was Giovanni Farina.
Giovanni Farina, thank you. And it seemingly did not make any sense at that time, and he seems to still be on the roster, if I'm not mistaken. Or
No.
Oh, okay, he's moved on. But he captained the second team at some point. So it feels like a very similar sort of a signing where if he can prove his worth in the B team, we may see him in the first team eventually. But as of now, I think this is a player to look out for in the future, not right now.
Yeah, I honestly think the best thing to do is just completely forget it happened. And if he shows up one day on the bench for the A team, then we can sort of come back to this and say, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened. But I think the expectations are very low right now. The other signing, which is much more interesting in my opinion and much more now impact, is Alexander Shaw. He's a 17-year-old that we've been seeing over the course of this preseason. He was traveling with the team on their South American excursions in the preseason. We saw him start a game for Inter Miami's A team in the preseason, or that midseason, early season friendly against Independiente del Valle in Puerto Rico. He started that game. I thought he looked really impressive in that game. I was super impressed with him. We saw him come off the bench for 17 plus minutes against Charlotte last weekend. And today he got his homegrown contract, first team deal. It's a 1-year deal, but there's 3 option years on top of it, which I think is probably going to be Inter Miami's sort of modus operandi for the next couple, for the next little while. So congratulations to him. He's a 17-year-old kid who's a professional soccer player, first team player for Inter Miami. And this means we're not going to have to worry about him, signing those 1 week or one game loan contracts and all that kind of stuff. So he'll be on the first team, and I think this means we're going to see more of him this year. I have some interesting thoughts about him that we have sort of sprinkled around and maybe talked a little bit about in the member section, but I guess I would love to hear your thoughts first.
No, I think hugely deserved. He was very impressive in preseason. I thought he got a couple of minutes this season against DC, I believe, off the bench. Did not look particularly impressive, but still looks like he belongs in the first team. Looks like he's ready for senior level minutes, and very happy for him. Congratulations to him. I'm sure there's a joke somewhere in there about Javier Mascherano not playing the youth, but I think at this point it's all about Alexander Shaw, and he deserves this. Absolutely does. It's a good sign that Inter Miami is looking out for its youth. When was the last time that we brought in a player from the pathway into the first team fold? Daniel Pinter was recently one, but it's good to see that this season we have a couple of those players come in. And I'm excited to see what Alexander Shaw can do. I think he's playing more mature than his age suggests. And who knows, given that we don't necessarily have too many things to play for over the next 6 months, you might actually see him get a few minutes either off the bench or in some of the games in the MLS. Very excited for him, and congratulations.
So here's what I have learned about Alexander Shaw over the last couple of weeks, and I'll just bring it for everyone. Not on anyone's radar, like at all. Inter Miami did a unique thing, and I just learned this today. And where instead of playing him on the B team last year, and he got a handful of appearances, a dozen appearances or so last year, but they put him on the UPSL team, which is an adult league that Inter Miami has a team in. And so you can consider this like the C team. And the reason they would do that is because that is an adult league. And so even though the quality of player there is probably not as high as an MLS Next Pro from a technical perspective, the athleticism and physicality is going to be higher because they're going to be grown adults. And so he got a lot of game time in that league last year, and that is that maybe has prepared him for the physicality and like sort of demands of the adult game of the first team this year. Interesting strategy. It's not something most MLS teams do. So that's one of the reasons that no one has really like scouted this guy on the national team scale, because like he hasn't been playing in the league where most young MLS prospects are coming through, which is MLS Next Pro. That said, like he got his first team contract today. He also got called up to the U.S. Youth National Team for the under 18s. So he is now very much squarely on the radar of everyone. And I think a lot of scouts out there are very excited to see what he looks like. And it's been difficult because Inter Miami has had him on the A team, but not given him a ton of minutes. Whereas if he had started 3 games in MLS Next Pro already, people would have been seeing what he looks like on that level. But there hasn't been a lot of public footage on him this season. And I think a lot of people are really excited about it. So congratulations to him. I think we've been very impressed with what we've seen so far. He did kind of come out of nowhere to us too. And so very excited.
If he can be half as good as Yannick Bright, then I'm sure we're going to go far with him.
Okay, well, let's transition that into international duty because, as I just mentioned, he got called up to the U.S. U18 team, which is, I think, his first time-ish on the national team picture, and like hopefully he gets to make an impression, and maybe he's going to be on the radar for the next U20 World Cup, or maybe the Olympic team at some point, and we'll see from there. But he is one of 11 Inter Miami players that are called up for international duty next week. For those that don't know, the international break starts Sunday night, Monday morning. So Inter Miami is going to play NYCFC Sunday afternoon. That's their weekend game. And then they will jet off to go join their national teams for the international break. Obviously, Lionel Messi and Rodrigo de Paul are joining Argentina. Germán Berterame got called up to Mexico, which I think is interesting because he's still vying for a place with the Mexican national team at the World Cup. Dane St. Clair and Talasco Segovia, not a surprise. Ian Frey, also not a surprise, going with Jamaica. They have some big games. And then Noah Allen with the Greek U21 team, Santi Morales and Daniel Pinta are also getting some U.S. youth national team call-ups. And I think at one of the sort of more important camps, those two are going to, Pinta and Santi Morales. So congratulations to them. The last person I want to mention is Israel Boatwright, who got called up by the Dominican national team, senior team. I will let you just respond to the whole thing before I talk about Boatwright.
No, it's good to have your players represent at the national level, and 11 is a very healthy number. We've got a lot of senior players. I'm just glad that we're not playing games in the MLS while all these players are going to be away, because that's a lot of senior players, and I wish them all the best. It's World Cup season soon, and I'm sure that's where their eyes are, and as it should be. Hopefully they all come back healthy, fit, and fresh for the MLS.
I don't understand how Israel Boatwright is healthy and good enough to go play for the Dominican national team and not even be on practice with Inter Miami or on the bench for Inter Miami. And he doesn't play for IMCF2 really either. I have no idea what's going on there, but that one is really weird.
Are we sure he's not in practice, or is that conjecture?
Well, he's never in any of the photos or videos that they post publicly. So, and he wasn't with the team for preseason, and he's not been sort of on the bench at any point. And to that point, they have brought up guys from IMCF2 before they have put him on the bench. So, like, we haven't seen him in 3 years. he played 2 really interesting games as an 18-year-old in 2023, and we have not seen him since. And I know there was an ACL tear at one point in there, but it just surprises me. Okay. Anything else before we get into this game? I'm trying to sort of put it off.
It's time, man. It's time. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Okay, I guess I'll just jet through the big moments because that's it. I mean, fourth minute, DePaul has a fantastic through ball to Allende. Allende sort of dots it between the legs of Waledji, and it goes to Berterame at the penalty spot, and he tries to take it first time and hits it right at the goalkeeper, and it was a great opportunity, and it's one we're going to be rueing for quite some time, except for the fact that 3 minutes later, Messi has an incredible goal through the legs of like four people, and I think in that moment, it was as happy as we had been. It was a Reguilon assist, and so we thought, okay, maybe Reguilon in the lineup with Messi is going to unlock something crazy, and maybe we're just going to win this game 3-0, and all we had to do was get home and not have to worry about traveling, and we're just going to dominate this game. Not the case. They sat back for much of the rest of the game. There was a moment in the 36th minute where Allende tries to chip the keeper. There's another moment in the 57th minute where Messi sort of plops the ball into the box for Berterame, who heads it, but it's right at Schweiky, the keeper. And then ultimately the moment of death comes in the 74th minute. Christian Espinoza scores in sort of a cacophony of idiotic movements. Idiotic's the wrong word. Frustrating and disappointing moments for Inter Miami's back line. In particular, Yannick Bright, who is the one who's going to be most frustrated with what happened in that moment. They score, it's 1-1, and that's the final score. Inter Miami's not really able to threaten in the final 15 minutes, and that's all it took. Inter Miami 1-1 on aggregate, but they lose on away goals, and that is our tournament. And as we will talk about later, potentially our whole season. We'll see. That was it, man. There was not a lot of interesting stuff going on in this game. That's all I have to say about it, really.
For me, I think there were three phases in this game. The first phase was the first 10 minutes when Inter Miami actually looked quite decent. The first opportunity comes, Berterame. You can almost forgive him for not taking that opportunity and not getting his full foot behind the ball. One reason I can justify it is that he's not a confident striker right now. Hitting it first time, he's not playing with confidence. If he'd scored like 5 goals before this, you could have almost imagined it floating into the back of the net. And the second reason for me is it started so quickly. Maybe he wasn't fully warmed up. All of those are just grasping at straws. I'm trying to make excuses for him. And that miss becomes even more egregious with the scoreline at the end. I feel like, yes, it's harsh to criticize him too much for it, but if he'd buried that, we could be having a different conversation. Hold on. I also want to make another point about Allende, who I thought had a couple of very good opportunities. You didn't mention another opportunity he had in the second half where Messi puts the ball straight into his feet. He takes a good first touch, but then his second touch lets him down. And then by that time, the Nashville defense is already on him. I thought these were the moments, and we talk about moments winning tournaments and winning knockout games. And these were the moments that Inter Miami did not actually perform well in, didn't show up in. So the three phases that I was referring to, first 10 minutes, I thought we looked good, had some good patterns of play, were using the width well. Second phase was basically up until the 75th minute where we took the foot off the gas. As soon as Sergio Reguilon left, it looked like somebody took the engine out of the attack and nothing was clicking together. And then the third half for me, or the third phase for me, was once Nashville scored, I was so shocked that Inter Miami did not even switch up the pressure. It felt like they weren't competing to go through, which was really weird because even against Orlando in an MLS game, they turned it up as soon as they had to. And this Inter Miami team normally shows up when they need to. They might not get the result at the end, but they do still turn up the pressure. Didn't happen. And honestly, didn't feel like they wanted the win as much, and Nashville goes through.
I will say I saw it a little bit differently, and not dissimilar time frames. You said first 10 minutes. I think as soon as the ball goes in the back of the net from Messi, the game shifted. I thought as soon as they went up 1-0, their entire game plan shifted. I won't even give them 3 extra minutes because I thought it was the second they went up 1-0, they sat back. I think with Reguilon going out, there was less danger for sure, but I think they had already switched out of attack mode and into kill the game mode. So Certainly, it would have been better. Maybe they would have had one more good opportunity if he was on the pitch. Like, I'm not saying they didn't get worse without him, but like I thought they had already shifted out of fifth gear and back into second gear just to sort of casually see everything through. I thought another big moment in the game was when Segovia comes out. I thought this is when Nashville takes over because Inter Miami's midfield just couldn't possess the ball like they did for the 50 minutes before then. And all that sort of work to kill the game off and intricate back passing and all this stuff to try and waste time. And you totally lose the ability to do that when you take Segovia out of the midfield. Not a shot at Silvetti, who maybe should have come on, but certainly not for Telasco Segovia. And then I guess the fourth phase is after Nashville scores, where they switch from trying to patiently pinpoint the moment to get the goal to being locked, just putting in a low block and saying, we're going to see this out and get out of here and have the greatest result of our club's history. And Inter Miami had nothing for it. I will say I give them, like, I'm not, no part of me thought they were going to give any more than that at that point. I thought everyone was tired at that point. I thought they had heavy legs from the wet grass was making it a little harder, and they were getting tired a little bit earlier. And I thought we saw that even start to play in before then. So the idea that they had some last sort of drop of gas in the tank, I just didn't see that happening. I thought it was going to be really tough. And if it was going to happen, it was going to be because Messi has some crazy shot from 24 yards out or something. So that's how I saw it. And granted, and I'll admit it, didn't rewatch the game. So like that was just my first impression. The thing that I will say, Berterame misses a good shot. You mentioned Allende has a couple. The second one, like I think Allende was had a nice moment or nice touch that made it feel like a dangerous opportunity. And then obviously Yannick Bright with a terrible moment in the goal. But my biggest problem is that they put themselves in a position where like one thing like that would go wrong and it would cost you the tie. They finished with 0.63 expected goals, 0.63. They had less than that in the first leg, which means I think they had about 1 XG over the course of 180 minutes. So they did exactly what their play style dictated. They scored exactly as much as they created. And I think from like a philosophical point of view, the thing that frustrates me so much is why is that not 3.5 XG? And if Brian Schwakey has an amazing game, okay, congratulations to Nashville. Your player stepped up and had a huge performance. If you go and score 3 goals and Hani Mukhtar and Christian Espinoza are just having the game of their lives and they beat you 4-3, okay, fine. You did it. But the idea that they scored 1 goal and then just said that's good enough and they sat and finished with 0.63 XG is the part that really sort of infuriates me so much. And certainly you heard my fury last time we talked, so I'm much calmer about it. But like that's the philosophy and problem with this entire tie is not Yannick Bright having the mistake, although if anyone wants to blame him for this, that's fine. Same thing with Berterame, same thing with Allende, whoever else. Like, to me, this game was put at risk of being lost when the game plan was developed last week. And it didn't go your way. You didn't get the lucky bounce. You didn't get the penalty. You didn't get the handball. Whatever it was that you needed to get through in this leg, you didn't get it. And the reason, like the fact that you put yourself in a position where you needed it is, to me, the problem. But
to your point about philosophy, I maybe just want to hammer home that point a little bit. This game itself was not an anomaly. It wasn't an anomaly in terms of how Inter Miami has been playing the season, which is the worrying fact for me. If this was, as you said, a game where their keeper has a really good moment to save them, or where we're trying really hard but are unable to put the ball into the back of the net, it wasn't any of that. We had our player ratings, and it was almost weird because we performed really poorly, but our expectations of the player performances, there was no surprise bad performances. All players did exactly what they were expected to do.
Well, there
Yes,
was one bad moment from
one,
Yannick Bright that we wouldn't have expected, and that's it.
and that
And that
that was
sent
the
you home.
point I was going to come to. That one bad moment is almost going to paper over the conversation about how we've been quite poor in this Javier Mascherano system for the last 5 games. And it shouldn't be that. It's almost unfair to Yannick Bright. But at the end of the day, the fact is that that moment is what cost us this game. But I think if you talk about philosophy, philosophically speaking, I think we lost this game even before the ball was kicked off. So that's what annoys me the most. The lack of effort and lack of initiative to win the game.
And you mentioned that it felt familiar to what we've seen so far this season in other games. And certainly the biggest standout would be the first leg in Nashville, where you got a 0-0 draw and you came out with a very similar game plan and you expected a significantly different result. I think is absurd. But even beyond that, I think this is a very similar approach to how Inter Miami's treated a lot of big games in the Javier Mascherano era. And I distinctly remember this is how Inter Miami played at the very beginning of CONCACAF Champions Cup last year, where very slow-paced and reserved and comfortable with a tie game, comfortable with a one-goal lead. And they did it against Kansas City, and they did it against Cavalier, and they did it against LAFC. And only when they were desperate did they really come out and pull something together, which we saw last year against LAFC. And then I thought we saw similar things in the Leagues Cup last year, and it was just like, to me, this was obviously the game plan and a predictable game plan, and that's why I have trouble blaming Berterame. That's why I have trouble blaming Yannick Bright. That's why I have trouble blaming Dane St. Clair, whoever you want to blame. And maybe if we go back to the first game, there's some guys maybe missed a shot or whatever. I don't remember off the top of my head that you could feel were at fault for that one as well. But to me, it's like this was the game plan, and everyone played their part pretty well. Like, they did what we expected of them, and we're still going home with this sort of quote unquote super team. That to me is unbelievable.
Worst part is that this was the last game that the Chase Stadium got to witness. What a way to end it. Anyways, moving on.
Just quickly, I want to mention the substitutions. Sergio Reguilon came out in the 40th minute. He was injured for Noah Allen. Nothing to be said about that. 61st minute, Matteo Silvetti came on for Talasco Segovia. I already mentioned this, but I thought as big of a mistake, if not bigger, than Berterame's miss, than Yannick Bright's moment in the 74th minute. Like, the entire
huge momentum
game
shift.
changed.
Yeah.
So while I'm not even going to blame that moment, because same thing with Mascherano. Like the whole game plan I felt should have been to score 4 goals, and it wasn't. And so that's where I really placed the fault. But I think Mascherano's decision to take Segovia off and put Silvetti on is as big of an individual mistake in the moment as anything the players did. So
Even more so because it doesn't make sense. It wasn't like Segovia was playing poorly or we needed more attack from the wide angles. Like, it didn't make any sense. I thought it was preempted and there was no thought behind it as to how you want to adapt to the game state, and completely took the life out of Inter Miami's attack and Inter Miami's game.
Okay, I want to spend a lot of time talking about like 2026 and Mascherano and all that. So why don't we get to awards? We'll blow through that, then we'll get to some of the bigger picture questions. Is there anything else before we move on you want to touch on?
30 seconds per award.
I will just say, for reference, our graphics department, just because it's Friday, wasn't available. So I actually know Saur's award, full disclosure. So
Cheating.
So we'll skip the guessing, I guess, today.
I'll still be guessing. I don't know your awards.
That's true. On this show, every game we give out 6 awards: a hair in the match, hair in that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. And Saur, it's your turn to go first. So, who was Heron in the match for this game?
Easiest award I've ever given, Heron of the match, Lionel Messi, the only player who was playing like he wanted to win this game. He sets the team up perfectly by scoring within the first 7 minutes. And after that, all Inter Miami has to do is just press the trigger, go for the jugular, and no, they decide to take the foot off the gas. Even then, I thought the only good moments in attack came from Messi. He was the one who was leading the charge, trying to create opportunities, looked good. For all the faults that we had over the last 2 days, 48 hours against Inter Miami, I thought Messi looked just as good. So for me, Heron of the match.
Yeah, no fault at all. Gets the goal. It's a shame we didn't win because we would be talking about that goal more. It was a fantastic goal.
900th goal.
A 900th goal too. Congratulations to him. He doesn't need to hear that from us, but again, like it's just a shame because that was a fantastic goal and a fantastic moment. And if we were in a better mood right now, like we would be talking about his performance a lot differently. I thought he gave a ton of effort defensively, really worked hard. And as you said, everything we created almost everything we created was from him. So just shame that performance didn't get Inter Miami through because just of the larger philosophy of this game plan.
And the worst part is not only did he start the game well, he just set us up exactly how he wanted the game to begin. If you would have asked me how would you want the game to start, I would have chewed your hand off for a 1-0 at the 7th minute. So there's literally nothing that he did wrong.
Honestly,
okay,
it's making me sad. Think about it, how we wasted it.
I told you went too quickly to the acceptance mark point, man. I'm still waiting at the rage point.
Okay, heron that flew north. For those that don't know, Florida herons, they don't fly north for the winter. They don't fly anywhere for the winter. So if you catch one flying north, you caught one doing the wrong thing. And in that vein, it's Yannick Bright. Has to be.
Yeah.
He gets bodied off by Christian Espinoza, and he should not let that happen. In trying to recover, he is one of 3 players that crashes into Dane St. Clair, which prevents St. Clair from having a chance to make a save. And so, terrible individual moment. I didn't think he actually played bad outside of the last 5 minutes he was on the field. But Heron that flew north had the game-losing mistake.
Yeah, has to be, I guess, because when you have that big of an error, I don't think you can blame anybody else. He'll learn from this. I think he'll grow from this. But what can you say? He was tired, clearly. Really bad moment against Christian Espinoza, and then trying to make up for it, but doesn't help the case by barging into your own keeper. So it is what it is. Heads up, I guess. Every player goes through this, and hopefully he comes back stronger.
Okay, what is your first award?
Okay, I might need you to tell me what my first award is. My first award is the King Tut's Curse Award.
Well, I know who it goes to, so why don't you explain the award and then tell us who it goes to?
So the King Tut's Curse is a mummy, and a mummy is basically bandaged, and somebody who's bandaged is Sergio Reguilon because he's always in the hospital. And it's a curse because every time he comes out, he can't seem to play more than 45 minutes before he gets injured again and goes to the hospital. But this is more of a conversation about how it's a curse, man. You can tell that as soon as he's on the pitch, it looks objectively different. We play a different style. We look a lot more expansive. And then you lose a player of his quality. You lose a player of his style. And I think Inter Miami just reverts back to being the conservative, sitting down and low blocking, protecting the lead team. There was a marked shift. I know you saw it differently, that as soon as we scored, we went to a conservative style. And maybe you're correct about that. But I think Inter Miami has looked the best when Sergio Reguilon has been on the pitch, and that hasn't been too long. I don't know what this means for his season. Genuinely don't know. Don't know how long he's going to be out for. And this might be the worst signing we've ever made.
Well, it's certainly, there's 0 chances the worst signing we've ever made. I can assure you of that. But
fair enough.
No, like I can't get excited about him right now. which kind of stinks because he's like clearly very talented and would be a huge addition to the starting lineup. But I don't. By the way, we have no update on him or his timeline. Hopefully he's okay. Maybe he'll be fine at the end after the international break. I don't know. But until we see him play 90 minutes for 3 games in a row, like I can't get excited about him. Talent is clearly there, and he will be the start. He will be the left back for as long or as much as he is able to be on the field. But like I do think I'm not going to get excited about him.
The best ability is availability, man, and he's not available. So you can't be excited about him. You just can't. I ask you one question. If this continues as a trend in terms of his injuries and issues that he's facing on the sidelines, do we sell him in the summer?
Well, you can't sell him.
I mean, yeah, but do you let him go?
I don't think so. Because this team is not about anything except winning trophies. So if there's a chance that he's injured until the first game of the playoffs, but then he can make a run in the playoffs, like it's probably worth keeping him on the roster, you know? Like I get that sucks, but also like what are we playing for? You know what I mean? So.
Okay, what's your first award?
My first award is the Got My Oil Changed award.
Oh, Gonzalo Lujan. Because clearly the lemon has turned into a Ferrari.
It's not Gonzalo Lujan.
Damn it.
But he does deserve an award. And I didn't plan one for him, and I feel bad about that. I will say, I actually, when my first instinct when thinking of hearing the match was to go to Gonzalo Lujan, I thought about it, and I think Messi is clearly the deserving player. But like to Gonzalo Lujan's credit, man, heck of a game. Heck of a game. I'm not sure what it says that the best story that's happened over the last week and a half is that Gonzalo Lujan has emerged as a real player. Maybe that is
might want to hold on in the Gonzalo Lujan conversation. Just saying.
Okay. Sorry. The Got My Oil Changed. I will say, I already forgot your first award too until you said it. But anyways, my award is Rodrigo de Paul. Got My Oil Changed. Dude, last year he didn't have this engine. He did not have this engine, and he got his oil changed, and now his engine is running very purdy. Last player to be running around for Inter Miami. Like even at the end, he was the only player that still had legs underneath him. El Motorcito, like he is showing that even in the toughest moment Inter Miami's had this year, when everyone's exhausted and everyone's been running around in the wet grass all game, the soaking grass all game, he still had energy and was still trying to make runs and make things happen at the end. And I wanted to applaud him for that. I also will say that 4th minute moment that it's a through ball to Tadeo Allende, and then he passes it into the box for Berterame, the wide open Berterame shot that he hits right at the keeper. That was a very long, nice through ball by Rodrigo de Paul that looked kind of Busquets-esque. So, like, again, another really good game from Rodrigo de Paul. I think he's been excellent this year, and as we will talk about players that are not living up to expectations or their price tag or whatever, like I actually think he's doing a really, really nice job this season and has been a huge like bonus for this team compared to what he was last year.
I think there's a award somewhere in there about RDP being a DP. I'll have to think about it in more details, but maybe in some future stream. He's been excellent. I have had no complaints from Rodrigo de Paul, apart from the 2 mistakes that he had in the first 2 games of the season. That's about it. Literally 2 moments. Other than that, he's been almost impeccable. I don't know if you saw, but Lionel Messi and Rodrigo de Paul starred in RDP's girlfriend's music video. And honestly, I'm so happy for them. They deserve to be enjoying themselves, having fun, chilling with their friends, because they're the only 2 who actually played that game with their head held high, or left that field with their head held high. Like they did something, and I'm happy for them. So good for them, man. Go enjoy it. Go enjoy life a little bit. They've run hard. They've played well, and RDP's been doing well for us. So I have no complaints at all.
Okay, what is your next award?
My next award is Scraping the Barrel Striking Gold Award.
Based on comments over the last few minutes, I imagine my brain is jogging and that it goes to Gonzalo Lujan. But why don't you explain the award?
Man, you're so intelligent. Like, your IQ is insane. Scraping the Barrel. It almost feels like... Okay, there's two points to this. We're scraping the barrel for centre backs because our main centre back is injured, and Javier Mascherano refused to use Noah Allen as a centre back and refused to use Ian Frey as a centre back. So we've dipped all the way at the bottom of the barrel to where we had shoved Gonzalo Lujan at the end of last season. Nobody thought that he was going to come out at the end of that barrel. And for some reason, when we picked him out at the end of the barrel, he turned into a golden nugget, a piece of gold. Because the last 3 games have been the best, the most consistent 3 games that Gonzalo Lujan has played for Inter Miami. I don't think he put a single foot wrong. Maybe some fault on the goal, but I didn't even see him anywhere near Dane St. Clair. I don't think he was responsible for Espinoza breaking the lines and getting in behind. I think he's been phenomenal. Which, and I know you told me this offline, that we should have known we're screwed, given how we're relying on Gonzalo Lujan to be one of our best players. We know that's when the earth is going to end. But kudos to him, man. He deserves an award.
I want to be clear. Like, he started the game against Independiente de Valle in Puerto Rico, and he looked as bad as he had ever looked.
Yeah.
And so for him to look like this, it's not like he had the whole offseason to get right or he's nursing an injury. Like 3 weeks ago, he looked as bad as he ever looked. And you're absolutely right. I think his performance over the last 180 minutes has been probably the best 180 minutes of center back play we've gotten from any player all season. He was fantastic. And as the sort of leader of the Gonzalo Lujan, like, calling him out club, like, I want to call him out for having a great performance. He's been in competitive games this year. He's been fantastic.
And not just different and good, but like a marked difference. He didn't have good moments in the game, like consistent, very consistent and very good. So kudos to him. All right, bring it home, Scotty. Let's get this done.
I'm going the Please from Below award. And please are like, I have a plea that you will do something. Like, I'm not like please and thank you, but
there's a plea from below.
Correct.
I'm guessing Herman Berterame, because we should probably talk about him.
It is Herman Berterame because...
Nailed it. I'm the one with the big IQ in this podcast.
I feel bad for him, honestly.
So bad for him, man.
I think we can sit on this one for a little bit because, like, I think this is like heading into our next section, which is going to be about the larger conversations. And I think we should have a longer conversation about Berterame, but he's not been good. I want to be clear. And I think it is fair to say his signing has been a failure, period. He was brought in for this tournament. And in the summer, we're going to watch Lewandowski and Mo Salah and Antoine Griezmann and, like, God knows who is going to end up in the MLS. And Inter Miami could have had any of them. And instead, they're going to have Berterame. And the reason they chose that is because they weren't going to get Mo Salah or Antoine Griezmann or Lewandowski before this CONCACAF Champions Cup. So the differentiator between Berterame and those guys is their ability to play in this CONCACAF Champions Cup. And he ghosted for 180 minutes. He should not have played last night. He should not have been in the starting lineup last night. He should have been the guy you brought on and after you need a goal and you're desperate. but certainly not in the starting 11. And I feel bad for him because on a very personal level, like I think he came here trying to explode right away. We saw him go down to Colombia on his own to like participate in that preseason game just so he could start getting involved with his team. I think he's desperate to make this Mexico national team for the World Cup. And like I think in a very real sense, this is sort of like a dream transfer, not for the club, but for the opportunity to play with Messi. He is from Argentina. I know he is now a dual citizen with Mexico, but he grew up in Argentina. Like I think this was all a dream for him, and it is sort of turning into a nightmare. And that is not to excuse his play, because even though I think there is a general concern about his chemistry with the other players, and chemistry with other players is a two-way thing. It's not just Berterame's fault. It hasn't worked, and he's going to get the blame for it. And I feel bad for him, and he deserves the blame for it. Like that's not to take it away from him, but I do feel bad for him because it is so unbelievably harsh to judge a player on 5 games.
There's so much nuance to this Berterame conversation. He's only been here 5 games. Any other player, any other season, any other league, this would be fine. I know European fans would be making jokes about 007 and all those things that they do on Twitter. I don't know why I know that, but I think you could cut him some grace if it wasn't for the exceptional circumstances in which he's been brought in, the price tag that we've paid for him, the fact that we've utilized all our levers to the point that we may not have any room to maneuver in the summer. There's just so much nuance to it. But it's almost unfair to blame him, give him so much criticism, maybe rightfully so, but I think he's probably been the biggest victim of Javier Mascherano's tactics and philosophy, because Javier Mascherano has not allowed him to gel well into the team. Like, I know he had to start from the get-go, but if it wasn't for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, you could have almost tried to embed him in a more routine manner where you bring him off the bench from time to time, give him moments where the team is up 2 goals and doesn't have to rely on him to be scoring those goals. Like, you could have done this in a lot more holistic manner where he would be embedded into the team properly. But because he came in for this tournament, it's like it's a snap. You go, explode, score us goals, or it's a failure. And I don't think any player in the world can actually live up to those kind of expectations unless you're Lionel Messi. I agree with you. I think the expectations set for him have been very high. I think he knew that coming in, and the fact that he's not lived up to it almost makes this signing feel a failure now. It's not entirely his fault, though. I can see why people would blame him, but it's as much a failure of the organization, as much a failure of the coaching staff as it is of him. And hopefully he picks up some form. But I had an award for him that was the No Floaties Award, because now the grace is gone. The fact that we've lost that one trophy that he was brought in to play for and compete for and help us win, nobody's going to have any sympathy for him. And maybe that's what unshackles him. Maybe now he can just go out and be like, you know what, I'm just going to be my selfish self and score. I don't know what the trajectory of his Inter Miami career is going to be from here on out, but tough place to be if you're Berterame.
Inter Miami should never buy another DP from Monterrey ever again. They're 0 for 2 so far. That's my first takeaway. Second, as you said, like it's not his fault. And I want to be clear, he shouldn't have started last night because he's not in good form and you needed to score 4 goals. Like you should have been trying to score 4 goals. And he wasn't going to be on the field if you were going to score 4 goals. So just going back to the whole game plan, we've hashed it out. But if Inter Miami does win because Suarez is on the field or because they go false nine Messi and Silvetti's on the left and Messi's central, like whatever it is, and Inter Miami advances, and then 3 weeks from now when we play Club America, he's a little bit more in tune with the team, and then he goes and scores 3 goals and Inter Miami makes it to the final. Like it could have worked even without him playing good last night, even if it wasn't set up yet. But
Absolutely.
of course, now the opportunity for that to be salvaged is gone. So, like, I do feel bad for him. It's not his fault, but it is going to fall on him. And that leads me to go ahead because I want to.
One last point that came to my mind. It's almost like a striker is always a reflection of how the team is playing in a certain situation. That situation being if your team is not creating too many chances. I would have been a lot more critical of Berterame if he was getting opportunities to score and was missing them, or was not finishing chances, was not presenting himself with the ball in the right positions. It's not even all of that. This is a dysfunctional offense. Even without him, I think this would be slightly dysfunctional. I agree with you. I think if we play a certain style, this Inter Miami team would explode and score a lot more goals. But you can't blame your striker when your entire team is struggling offensively and honestly playing with a conservative mindset.
Seba says, I don't know how you can blame the front office for this.
I don't blame the front office.
First, et cetera, et cetera. I don't blame the front office either.
I don't blame the front office. No.
I will say,
they showed ambition.
I do want to remind people about my conspiracy theory when we signed Berterame. And that was that Inter Miami's front office, I don't think was planning to sign Berterame back in December. And that as soon as everyone came to camp, someone decided, you know what, I think we do need to go get a striker. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Alberto Diaz, who's our sporting director, has a prior relationship with Berterame from their time at Atletico San Luis. And that ended up being Berterame. Just a conspiracy theory that I threw out there that I think does become relevant now. But also not where I want to go with this. I don't blame the front office for this at all. You have asked me, I'm not sure if you've mentioned it on the pod, but you certainly asked me, after or over text, whether Messi can play with a true number 9.
I mentioned it on the pod. And I that's incorrect. My point was, can Inter Miami play with a true number 9, not Messi? Messi plays with a number 9 in the Argentina team.
Okay, I apologize. Apologies. I don't want to misrepresent what you've said.
Thank you. I respect that.
No problem. It was asked to me again yesterday by someone else, and I thought about it and I was like, well, okay, fine. You don't want to consider Luis Suarez a traditional striker, fine. I thought he looked pretty dang good with Jose Martinez. I thought he looked pretty dang good with Leo Campana, and then I thought about it. And I'm not sure if Lionel Messi is the person we should ask about with regards to getting a number 9 to work right. I think the person we should be asking about is Javier Mascherano.
That was my point.
Luis Suarez was the second best player in the league, in the MLS, without a doubt. And he finished second in the Golden Boot race in 2024 with Tata Martino. And I know everyone hates Luis Suarez now, and our chat is at the top of the list of thinking Suarez is a terrible player. But he fell off a cliff the minute Javier Mascherano became our coach. And I tried to defend Suarez a lot last year, and I talked about this last season, that the biggest reason I thought Suarez was so much less effective was because of the role that Javier Mascherano was asking him to play. And that eventually over the course of the season, it did, I think, cost Suarez some of his confidence, and then it fell off even more. But I do think Javier Mascherano is like a huge factor in why Suarez was so much worse last year than he was in 2024. And our other striker under Javier Mascherano was Alan Obando. And I don't know if you remember his great moments, but they were not very common. And here we are, buying the third most expensive striker in the MLS, maybe fourth most expensive striker in the MLS, a guy that has done it against MLS teams, that has done it against League MX teams, that has done it in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, that has done it in the Leagues Cup, that is prime age, that is as ready to go as any striker you could buy from outside the MLS. And I mean that genuinely. There's no other striker that is going to be as used to the travel, as used to the weather, as comfortable against MLS competition. All of those things are, on paper, make him a fantastic signing. And guess what? The best he's looked at Inter Miami was the first 15 minutes when he had 0 practices with the team. He showed up in Colombia, almost had an assist, had a really nice drop off to Silvetti, looked really good. I thought we were very comfortable, like he's going to hit the ground running. And boy, has he looked terrible since. Is it that Mascherano actually cannot play with a true number 9? That's my question. And the fact that we got anything from Suarez is actually a testament to how like impactful Suarez can be, and that anyone less than just world class is not going to be an effective striker under Javier Mascherano. That's where my brain is going.
No, that was my original point. That this Inter Miami team under Javier Mascherano cannot play with a striker. Maybe. Question mark in parentheses. Because we haven't seen that from this team at all. The patterns of play are not there. They're not comfortable with the runs in behind with a strike. Like they don't understand how to build for a striker and play with the focal point who is the striker. It almost feels like Javier Mascherano prepares them defensively, asks them to set up in a certain way. That's why he constantly reverts to that 4-4-2 formation, because he knows how to set the team up defensively. But when it's about going forward, he relies on Messi and his individual brilliance to bail us out. And I think his point in setting this team up offensively is get the ball to Messi and you'll figure it out. Because you haven't seen patterns of play. Once you have a true number 9, and I don't necessarily consider Suarez at this age a true number 9 because he does a lot of other things, tries to get involved in a lot more ways. But even then, like, he was never made the focal point of our attack. And I don't think it's a Messi fault. Like, Messi will make the plays for the striker when he needs to make them. But we joke about it, that once a player gets embedded into a Javier Mascherano system, he gets significantly worse. I think there's just genuine credence in the fact that we don't even know what instructions are being given to the number 9, what he's been asked to do. If he's being asked to defer to Lionel Messi or make a certain kind of run, or you don't know what the training on the pitch looks like. You don't know what the instructions are, the patterns of play are. And genuinely, I think there might not be any. That's why our attack hasn't clicked. A lot of the times last season, the way we looked best was when there was space for players to play with. Even in the playoffs, I think when you could run in behind the defenses, Inter Miami was able to create those spaces. But the only time we actually saw patterns of play was when Alba was cutting the ball into Messi and we were creating chances then. And once that stopped this season, we've run out of ideas because teams are basically low blocking us and we don't have a clue how to break them down.
Well, I think that's a very important point. Obviously, the Messi and Alba connection is clearly time tested and they have a lot of sort of natural instinct to just do it. And so when Alba's not there, a lot of people have complained about Noah Allen's inability to replace, even to any sort of degree, what Jordi Alba brought to the table. And like maybe the point that I was always trying to make, and maybe I didn't vocalize it the way I would have liked to, but not every team relies on a left back receiving the ball from their attacking midfielder and that being the focal point of their offense. Most teams do not have that, and they still find ways to create goals. And so my biggest thing is, what is going on schematically? What is going on in the film room? What is going on in training from a tactical perspective, from an ideas perspective, to try and use the players you do have access to create better offense? And I don't think there's anything coming from Mascherano going forward to help create offense systematically. It is always rely on Messi and, okay, how do you get the best out of Messi? Everyone wants to blame the left back for not supplying Messi, but that's not the only way to play soccer. A good coach would say, I don't have the left back to do that. I need to find different ways to create offense, different ways to put my best players in good positions to succeed. And this Berterame thing, I think, is such a, like, it's standing out so much because of the price tag, because of the expectations, because of the expectation for instant impact and how bad it's looked so far. It really stands out. But I don't know if he has creative ideas for any of his players going forward.
And you made me think of another point. I think last season with the likes of Sergio Busquets, Alba, Messi working together, I don't think Javier Mascherano had the need to think about it.
And
He
Luis
wasn't
Suarez.
put in a position to think about it. Now that he's been put in a position to think about it, I don't think he knows how to get it done. So last season, we may not have actually required Javier Mascherano to think about those offensive patterns and offensive plays because Luis Suarez was firing, Alba was firing, Sergio Busquets was firing. They could all figure it out on the pitch at the same time. Now that we don't have that, now that we need certain drilling into this team of how we want to play offensively, maybe Javier Mascherano doesn't have the tools for that. And that's why we're struggling so much. We need to look into the stats of how much XG we've created this season, but we spoke about this in the post-game Raw reaction. Inter Miami has scored 7 goals in 6 games with barely any chances created. We've barely gone into the double digits this season in terms of chances created, and 4 of those goals came against Orlando, and 4 of those goals have been scored by Lionel Messi. So it's clearly not an issue of, oh, the strikers or the wingers aren't performing or aren't scoring the goals. We're not even creating the opportunities.
The thing is, when someone says the left back's not creating enough offense, like that's true. Or when they say you need a left winger, like everyone has their own pet idea of how to fix it. But the thing that's so frustrating is that the coach isn't doing anything to fix it. And that you have diverse personnel to be experimenting, not just during the games, but also in training all week, and like having a sort of academic mind to theorize, this is what I think will work.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna drill it in practice, and then we're gonna go execute on game day. And okay, fine, it didn't work this game. We're gonna try something different next game, because you have like a intelligent academic theory of how this sport is supposed to work. Like that's what the coach is for. That's what the coach is for. And that's what all good coaches do well. You mentioned this Wednesday night that Inter Miami scored 7 goals in 6 games, and you said it, and I kind of thought to myself, like, well, that's not terrible. Like, I'm sure there are MLS teams that have do worse than that. But let me remind you this: 4 of those goals came in one half against Orlando City. So that means in their other 11 halves of soccer they've played this year, they have 3 goals. And when you think about it like that, it is much worse. The only game they surpassed 1 XG was that Orlando City game. They've had less than 1 expected goal in every other game.
And for a team that used to score for fun, by the way.
So, before we get into some of the bigger points, and I think that was one of them, because I don't think it's Berterame's fault.
I think we've already got into them. Yeah.
I think he's a good player. And we will come back to this topic when we talk more about
If he's playing in the
Mascherano.
LAFC team with Heung-min Son, let's replace him with Denny Bouanga. I still think he scores goals. May not be as good as Denny Bouanga, but I still think he scores goals. He's not a bad player.
Okay, we'll get back into Mascherano in a minute, but just before we get off of this game specifically, are there any other players that you want to talk about? We normally do that after awards. Facundo Mora,
really.
Mikael, Dane St. Clair, Yannick Bright, Segovia, Allende.
I think we said it. Like all of them none of them had a poor game. Like for 85 minutes, everyone looked fine. But that one moment, I thought Yannick Bright was egregiously bad. Facundo Mora wasn't particularly good in that play. Mikael was also kind of culpable for bumping into Dane St. Clair. But the rest of it, I thought we didn't put a foot wrong, but we may not have also put a foot right as such. So it was a fairly average game from the entire team.
Like maybe even solid. Like I think they executed the game plan pretty well.
Yeah.
Just to touch on that moment, Yannick Bright gets beat around the corner, or sort of around the touchline by Christian Espinoza, and he gets a shot off, and it goes high. And Sam Surge, who is big, is just kind of bullying Facundo Mora into the pocket, and he kind of crashes Mora into Mikael, who crashes into Yannick Bright, who crashes into Dane St. Clair. And so by not committing a foul, he just kind of bodies his way into the middle, and he takes out all 4 Inter Miami defenders. And that's why it looked so silly. It's just
I knew I hated Sam Surridge.
Yeah. Well, we talked about how unimpactful he was. And actually, like, I think he is as responsible for that goal as anyone else other than Espinoza. Okay. Here are my 3 questions. And also, by the way, as you guys have been asking questions in the chat, I've been starring them, and we will come back to them either through these conversations or after if we don't touch on them. Here are my three things I want to talk about. Where are we at with Mascherano? Like, as the manager of Inter Miami, should he be fired? Like, that type of conversation. Two, what do we think matters for the rest of 2026? And three, what are the silver linings? Because I have one that I think is interesting to talk about. So if you in the chat want to hear, if there's any sort of other conversation you want us to have, just throw it in the chat and we'll talk about it, because I do think this is still part of like the therapy session of, I want to say this tournament, but really this round, because it was such a short run.
We're basically free psychologists to the entire Inter Miami fan base.
Well, I think we're also a part of the, like, we're getting therapy for this too.
Yeah.
If anything, it might be the other way around, where we get to get our feelings out in the chat as our psychologist.
None of our advice should be solicited as financial advice. Just making it clear.
Okay, Javier Mascherano. What do you think?
I think it's very simple in my mind. For me, it's no longer about the results. I think it has to do everything with the style of play, with the health of the organization, with the health of the roster. Javier Mascherano can get results by playing the same 11 in the MLS week in, week out. But I don't think that would justify me thinking any more positively about Javier Mascherano. We spoke about this in the Raw reaction a little bit, in the player ratings as well. I think Javier Mascherano is back on the hot seat for me. I'm going to be scrutinizing him every single game, because this was what he was brought in to do. This season was all about winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and you failed at the first step. The first hurdle, you weren't able to prepare the team well. So I think for the rest of the 6 months at least, let's treat it as the 6 months before. Well, not even 6 months anymore, because the World Cup's right there. But I think for the remainder of the regular season, Inter Miami needs to rediscover its style of play, its panache, its ability to dominate games. We have to get back to a good style of play, and the results will follow. If Javier Mascherano is able to do that, if he's able to integrate and utilize the whole squad, then I can give him some grace, and we'll see how many trophies we can win in the process. But I think the patience with him now is very, very short. Very short.
I said this last year when we had in Orlando City. We lost to Orlando City 3-0, and I said they should fire him then. I don't think he's a good coach. And I find that to be an unbelievably rude thing to say about a professional. And I feel bad about it. I also have a sense of how much money he's making, so I don't feel that bad about it. My biggest thing with Mascherano for near a year now is I don't think he understands what this project should be. I have questions about his ability to evaluate talent and pick the best players. Like, I do question his ability to do that, and that really surprises me given his sort of history around the game. I don't think he's a particularly good creative offensive coach, like very reliant on Messi to create offense. I don't think he's a very good manipulator of tactics, although some of these things I would expect him to get better over the course of time. The thing that really drives me home is he doesn't understand what it means to be the Inter Miami coach in the Lionel Messi era. And maybe it felt like he was realizing it at the end of last season. And there was a point where he sort of unleashed Jordi Alba at this last third of the season, and the offense did start to look better, and it kind of blew up, and it peaked in the playoffs. And you're like, okay, maybe it took him longer than it should have. It took him 2/3 of the season to realize what this is supposed to be, but like maybe he got there. But we've come back into 2026 from the break with a retooled roster that is similar enough, but also, and I can assure you this is the case, the front office expected it to look like the MLS Cup playoffs this year, not like what it looked like when they lost 3-0 to Orlando City last year or the first half of last season. I can just tell you that for a fact. They were expecting it to look very different than it looks right now. And the fact that hasn't translated to the coaching staff, who has gone back to the 4-4-2 every time they get an opportunity. Just for reference, he's gone to a 4-3-3 twice this year. He did it against DC and he did it with the kids against Charlotte last weekend. But whenever it comes time to really get a result, he settles back into this 4-4-2, very conservative, patient, not even patient, conservative, defensive approach. And that's not what this Inter Miami project is about. And so I think they should move on from him, is my opinion. I felt that way for almost a year now. So like, this is nothing new. I still was not impressed with him overall when the season ended, even though they won the MLS Cup. I don't think, well, obviously he's not going to get fired after that game because here we are 2 days later and he's not been fired. And so I reflected a lot on his job security. And I actually did come to a realization about him and his job security. Inter Miami spent $15 million on Berterame. Second most expensive signing in club history. It's one of the 10 most expensive signings in the history of the MLS. Like if you went back 24 months, it'd be like the third most expensive signing in MLS history. That is a really big investment. And I look around the world and I think to myself, man, if a club is going to invest that much money into a player and the coach can't get it to work, who's going to get replaced? We just saw with Real Madrid this year. They were very excited about Xabi
Alonso.
And it doesn't seem like he could get it to work with Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. And, well, lo and behold, this guy they were very excited about is gone 6 months later. I think Berterame and Mascherano have to work, or one of them is going to be gone. And I think our assumption Wednesday night was that it might be Berterame and that they might try and find a way to get out of his contract and his deal with the team. And like maybe they are looking to sell him in the summer and you know, maybe they take a loss, but they get him back to a different Liga MX club, or maybe even Monterrey, who looks like they might be able to use him, and maybe they can, you know, loan him to Europe or something. Like, who knows? But actually, 15 million is a lot of money. And that's not, like, Mascherano's not making anywhere close to that. And I actually think they might move on from Mascherano before they move on from Berterame. So I think those two have to figure out how to make it work. And I'm not sure they will be able to.
I think last season when the CONCACAF Champions Cup debacle happened, there were calls for him to be fired, but I could understand why the front office wanted to keep him. Results improved. I think he showed changes in his approach, especially when he was forced to make those changes because his job was basically on the line. I thought he made some adjustments. At no point did I get convinced entirely by Javier Mascherano that he is the coach to lead this team to all glories. He is not the coach who will revolutionize Inter Miami. He doesn't seem to be the one who has the tactical nuance or the acumen to just demolish every opposition and lead this Inter Miami team to the highest point that we know this team is capable of. So it's almost always felt like we're constantly talking about this Inter Miami team being just good enough, but never actually fulfilling its potential. I think 85 and 90% of the season last year, we spoke negatively about this team. And maybe 15% in games, you're like, oh, wow, this looked fantastic. But it's just one season, and you don't want to judge a young coach by that one season. And then credit to Javier Mascherano. In the playoffs, he discovered a style of play. Thanks to Nashville for handing Luis Suarez that suspension, where Inter Miami just exploded into its own. And we're like, okay, this is what it looks like. This is what Inter Miami looks like when it's completely unleashed, all the shackles are off, and the coach buys into the project. But it's like that age-old story where a desert traveler falls into an oasis, sees there's water there, and then thinks it's a mirage and just turns away. That's what Javier Mascherano's basically done. He was sitting on a gold mine with that playoff run, seeing what this Inter Miami team is capable of, how he should be able to get the best out of them, and he decided, no, thank you. I'm good. I'm good. And then he comes into this season where I thought the off season was very interesting because you and I kept going back and forth about should we think about this team actually now adapting to that new style of play where they play with two wide forwards and Messi as number 9? What is it going to look like? Are they going to stick with it? Are we going back to a 4-4-2? What are the signings going to say? None of that. We are too we trust this coaching staff too much. It was much more simple than that. We're going to play a simple 4-4-2 and not allow any goals to be scored against us and just be very conservative. Back to square one. If you make a mistake once, it's a mistake. But if you make a mistake twice, it's a choice. I think Javier Mascherano has chosen his way of playing, how he wants to set this team up. And that's just not suited to it. Like, Inter Miami is not suited to this style of play. And if it doesn't click in the next 10, 15 games, I think he should be on his way out. For me, I don't think he was ever good for Inter Miami. And the MLS Cup kind of gave him a bit of grace. But I think I'm done pretending that he is I'm done pretending that he can be an elite coach to win this team everything. I think he's an average coach. And there's a reason. I'm going to be slightly more generous, but I think there's a reason he's here, and it's because he has friends in the right places. And unfortunately, I think that debate between Berterame versus Javier Mascherano might end up on the Javier Mascherano side because of who he's friends with and who he knows. So we'll see how it plays out, but my patience with Javier Mascherano is very short, very, very short.
I do think you're being very generous calling him average. I think he's one of the 3 worst coaches in the MLS. And I feel like that is so rude. And like, I really think that through before I say it, because to call a coach who is doing this at one of the highest levels bad is like silly from our perspective.
Yeah, because we don't know, like we're not professionals. We don't know what the day-to-day responsibilities are. We don't know what the environment is like. And it's almost like we're dismissing it by just a fact of opinion. But
I watch every game twice, and I see what the other coach does to get things out of his players, and I watch what Mascherano does to get stuff out of his players. And like, he gets outcoached almost every single game. And even when he pulls changes that work, like it's working because he has more talent and is out. Like, the other team doesn't have the ability to make a response in most cases. Like, this team
it's so simple, right? Like, this team will be good even if you put 11 players on the pitch. That's all you have to do. And you'll probably get a result, even if you have no experience being a coach. But you almost like handicapping yourself by giving yourself a coach like Javier Mascherano, who tends to tie both hands in the back and then proceeds to get punched in the face constantly and still somehow is standing and doesn't get knocked out. So it's almost a miracle what he's doing. And not in a good way.
I just mentioned that I said last year Orlando City 3-0 loss was when I said you should pull the plug. The reason I said it then was because you were coming on an international break and you could have brought a new coach in before the Club World Cup. Like, there was a reason behind that timing. But there's also a reason I didn't say that after the Vancouver series, where I thought, embarrassed themselves again in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, because I wanted to see if he had a response. Like, this was his game and it wasn't working, and he was going to say, okay, fine, I have to admit it now. It's not working and I need to respond. And there was just no response. And that's why, like, now there's no grace period. I will say our ownership group is very, I think, generous when it comes to giving time to the coaches. I think we certainly saw that with Phil Neville. And so, like, I don't expect them to be reactionary. I don't expect them to fire him because they lose a game 3-0 or whatever. Like, I think they are, like, more. human or like generous and like think about it from a human perspective and not just a raw, get me the soccer results that I need kind of
And
perspective.
sometimes that's important.
And I agree. And I can like appreciate that from the coaching staff. I mean, from the ownership group. So, like I understand that, but I also do think this Berterame thing could be like, I think this is going to be, it's going to be one or the other by the end of it. If it doesn't work by this summer, one of them has to go. And like, actually now that I've thought about it, I think it's more likely that it's going to be Mascherano.
Interesting.
Because think about this, and this can lead us into our next conversation. Inter Miami is not good right now. Like, if this is what we're going to be, oh, it is not good enough. When you're paying Lionel Messi, not just paying Lionel Messi, but you're paying to have Lionel Messi, and Lionel Messi is part of your team, and like you are trying to get the most out of what you can be, and he's trying to win everything he can. Like, this is a winner's project. You can't be this, what they're doing right now.
It shouldn't have ever been this.
It shouldn't have ever been this. But the question is, like, how do you reset if it's just not working? And the answer is really twofold. Like, you can either sell Berterame, open up the DP spot, go get a different DP, or maybe get a couple U22s and open up some allocation money and like kind of retool everything. Or you can change the coach and say, we're stuck with this roster, but maybe a different coach can like revamp the whole thing. So I actually think by the summer, Berterame and Mascherano are going to work, or one of them is going to be gone. Because that's the only way I think you reset this into something better. Assuming they don't get it to work. And I will be honest, like I am not particularly confident they are trending in the right direction. And I'm not particularly confident based on what I've seen in the last year and a quarter that they have what it takes to get it right. So that's my take on Mascherano right now. Okay. 2026. I will quote you. If they don't win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, it is a failure. Now, to be fair,
I agree.
To be fair, I think you walked it back a little bit over the next 45 minutes as we talked about it. But like instant instinct, this is what it was all about.
Like, nothing we do from here on will make me feel, well, of course, I'll feel fantastic if we win the MLS Cup. I'll be very happy if we win the Leagues Cup. But yeah, none of it is the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think the dream was the CONCACAF Champions Cup. The project was the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And it had to be that. And it was CONCACAF or bust, unfortunately. That's the expectations that was set by the front office. And now it almost feels like everything is going to be a consolation. Last season, we ended the season almost saying that the MLS Cup has papered over the cracks. And yes, we won the MLS Cup, but I think you and I almost came to the conclusion that that wasn't a success.
No one was stronger about that than I was. I want to be clear.
And if that was the base point, then I think it should be the same argument this time around. Like, no matter what we do from here on, I don't think it's ever going to be what it could have been if we won the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It'd be a consolation. Inter Miami winning back-to-back MLS Cups is fantastic, great. I think it's going to be a fantastic, fun achievement. I'm going to enjoy it just as much. But at the end of the day, I think Javier Mascherano has not shown me enough over the time that he's been here for a year and a half to say that he's going to comfortably win another trophy with Inter Miami this season. And honestly, it's all about the Messi project. And he's wasting time on this Messi project. Like, he's wasting our time. He really is.
Potentially wasted it. I think he's wasted the best opportunities. I think that's already done and dusted. And
exactly. So I think that just should conclude the fact that it's CONCACAF or bust, man. Honestly.
Here's the way I've thought about it. And this is a different verbiage than the way the front office has talked about it. But I think there was one goal and there was one other way to have success in this Messi project. And the goal was, we're going to be the best team in North America, period. And the way you prove that is to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But I also think there are other ways to demonstrate that, at least to some degree, if not completely, like winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup would have. I think if you win the MLS as the best team, you have a claim to be the best team in CONCACAF. I know they won the MLS Cup last year, but they weren't the best team indisputably. So if Inter Miami goes on and wins the Supporter Shield and has a near record-breaking season, and they win the MLS Cup and they do the double and they are just like cruising, and they are clearly the best team in the MLS at the end of the season, like, I think that's really nice. And by the way, if you go and beat Toluca, who's the best team in Mexico right now, and you add that in the Campeones Cup to the resume, like I'm starting to draw the picture of like how you can still claim at the end of the season, we are the best team in CONCACAF. And if you can do that, like, I think you can call that a success. To your point, when we had this conversation about the CONCACAF Champions Cup, I was on a different level. I didn't put that much pressure on this tournament because even though they were, I just felt that it was very easy to not win, and I didn't want to make that the do or die for the season.
But it wasn't as easy to be knocked out in the first round.
Certainly, they should be embarrassed, and I hope we have gotten the point across that they should be embarrassed, not just with how they played, but how they thought this whole thing would and should go, and that starts and ends, in my opinion, with the coaching staff. And so, like, I think there's a way to find success this season.
Can I interject?
Go ahead.
I think you make an excellent point, and maybe you're absolutely right that Inter Miami, if they find a way to show that they're the best team in North America, maybe the best team in the CONCACAF, yeah, I think that could be a salvaging point. But we're so far off that even potential. I genuinely don't see how that even comes about. So for me, that's a moot point almost, because I don't see this team being the best in the CONCACAF in this current setup. Absolutely no chance.
So maybe the way we should just end this conversation is say it is still possible to be what they want to be,
Theoretically.
but it's very far away from now.
Very
and so
far.
maybe it's only saying, okay, it's alive, but it's not even worth really discussing right now, because you're absolutely right. Like, I think you have to win something related to Liga MX, whether it's the Campeones Cup against Toluca, whether it's the Leagues Cup and you beat two.
And even that's a one-off game. Like, if you end up winning by a fluke, not playing well for 75 minutes, and then Messi scores a banger and wins a team, like, even that doesn't justify it. So there's just so many nuances involved in this that I just don't see how Inter Miami can become the outright best team in the CONCACAF this season. Not anymore.
Like, it will have to look a certain way. It can't just be about the results. And
that goes back to my point on Javier Mascherano, actually. Sorry to cut you off, but that goes back to my point about the play style. Like, results, honestly, may not even matter at this point, because for me, it's the play style. You could get a 1-0 win for the rest of the season, every single game, and I would still not be convinced by Javier Mascherano, because I think this team is more than good enough to win without a coach against any team in the MLS. I think you have to play a certain style. You have to dominate a certain way. You have to showcase a certain identity that proves this is the best team to start with in the MLS, and then we can maybe hope about the CONCACAF. But you need to first start being the best team in the MLS. You just got knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup by an MLS team.
And not even a good...
Yeah.
No, that's not an insult to Nashville. They didn't have a good 180 minutes. Like, I think they are better than that.
I think that's fair to say.
As we mentioned Wednesday night, as we mentioned again at the beginning, if they just had their goalkeeper just had a blinder of a game, or if it was like this 4-3 game where it was just so back and forth, and man, Hani Mukhtar had the game of his life, like, you just ran into destiny and destiny beat you, that would be different. Even if it was the round of 16 or if the semifinal, wherever it ended up being, if you lost to destiny, okay, fine. We can survive that. But the fact that you lost because you're scared and had a loser's mentality, like, that is the real problem. Okay, I'm getting upset again. I'll bring it back down. So I guess my point is, like, I think there's still a way you can have success in 2026. I think there are still things to play for. With reversion back to our Mascherano conversation, I do not have confidence that he's the guy that's going to make this happen. His lack of adjustments in what I considered big moments last year showed me, A, either he wasn't capable, or B, he didn't think they were big moments. And if that's the case, that's like also a real big problem. And I think we have questions about that going into this season as well. But I'm leaving the door open for them to still have a good year. And so that leaves us with the next question, which is, okay, what is the rest of this season? Because I have a silver lining.
I think you might want to talk about the silver lining because I generally don't know how to salvage. Well, there's a lot of ways to salvage this season. You can end up like you're still in four competitions. You have the Campeones Cup to look forward to, the Leagues Cup to look forward to, the MLS Supporter Shield, the MLS Cup. There's many ways that this is still an important season. I think before the World Cup, that's a different story because it almost feels like the rest of the next, how far away are we? 3 months feel a little bit like the eyes are going to be on the World Cup, so it's not going to be as exciting, as consequential. Post World Cup, I think the feelings are going to be different because you're then again in a tournament to play for the cup, and you have those opportunities to tick off the milestones. But I think you can salvage the season. There's a lot that you can take away from the season still.
You can salvage this season, but you can't do any of it until after the World Cup. And so let's talk about that. Lionel Messi is going to the World Cup, assuming he's healthy. And I don't think, as an Inter Miami fan who does not care about Argentina or the Argentine national team at all, like not even 1%, I hope they lose in the group stage. I don't because I want Messi and DePaul to do well, but like that's how little I care.
Yeah.
I think he should be doing everything he can to get himself healthy and ready for that.
Yeah, that's justified.
And Absolutely. Same thing with Rodrigo DePaul. Same thing with Dane St. Clair. And same thing with Ian Freya if he ends up going. And same thing with Berterame. Like, I think their primary focus should be going to the World Cup and being healthy and informed for that. And so I do not blame them one iota if they don't play on turf. I don't blame them one iota if they don't play midweek games. I'm not sure Miami has any, but I think that should be their primary focus. There is a game on Sunday at Yankee Stadium, which is the Mickey Mouse Field. I don't think Messi should play. Like, just go to Argentina duty. And, why are you risking it for this 5th game of the MLS season? There's no reason for you to be doing this. And again, I want to be clear. I do not care about Argentina at all. There's no point in him exerting himself in any way that would risk his ability to be good or great or fantastic at the World Cup or healthy. So here's the silver lining. Nothing matters with Inter Miami until after the World Cup because that's when you'll get into the Leagues Cup. It's when you'll get into the Campeones Cup. You'll get into the sort of race for the Supporters Shield and seeding in the MLS Cup playoffs. This is a fantastic opportunity to get healthy as an organization. Not your players getting healthy, not getting physically healthy, but as an organization. And one of the things I think we saw last year is that, man, they squeezed every last drop out of that talent. And by the way, in doing so, 2 of their biggest lemons dropped. And I can tell you at the beginning of the year, Busquets and Alba were not retiring or planning to retire. And by the end of playing 4,000 plus minutes for Mascherano, they were retiring.
Put me in an old age home.
There's no reason to do that. And so lots of guys last year didn't get a lot of opportunities. David Ruiz, Alan Obando, there's some real clear examples. You should be way better this year about rotating your players, giving young 100%. Guys an opportunity to develop and grow because nothing matters until after the World Cup. And all these games in between are opportunities for you to get better. Not for Messi to pad his stats, which is fine. He can do that when he's playing. But it's for Alexander Shaw or Santi Morales or Daniel Pinter.
David Ajala. But even David players Ajala, that are on the fringes.
It is their opportunity to prove that they can help you so that when you go into those tournaments in the second half of the season, you're not afraid to use them. It is your opportunity to try a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 diamond or a back three or God knows what else, a 3-4-2-1. Let's figure out different ways these guys can play successful soccer. Let's figure out which guys on the 24-man roster are able to play successful soccer. Let's see which players can play with each other. Let's not run out the same 11 players or 13 players every single game for the next 5 months. Don't do that. Don't do that. Experiment with formations, experiment with partnerships, give young guys opportunities to not just develop, but prove that they're good or prove that they're not good if that ends up being the case. This is an opportunity for the next 6 months or until the end of the World Cup. I guess it's only like 4 months now, but
yeah,
that's a lot of games. This is an opportunity to become healthier as a roster. And I don't mean that from like getting your legs under you, but I mean like spiritually healthy and in a good place so that by the time the World Cup ends and you come back, you can be firing on all cylinders with the right coach, whether that's Mascherano or not, with the right coach that will allow you to go chase those tournaments that are still worth playing for, because you can still prove you're the best in CONCACAF by beating the best team in Liga MX and winning the MLS and crushing all the competition in the meantime. But man, if you do what you've done for the last 14 months, you're not going to do that. So here's your opportunity. Take half a foot off the gas, change gears, get your oil changed, charge up if you're driving a Tesla, or switch to a Tesla if you feel like your current coaching staff is not going to get you where you need, whatever it is. And let's be better as an organization, not force our star players to carry the team for 4,000 minutes and push them into retirement and all that other crap. And that's my silver lining. Like, that's all available to them now.
It's a good silver lining. I think that's the ambition and the aim for at least the interim. This team is in a stinky place. Like, it feels stale. It feels rotten. And there just needs to be a turnover. And I don't mean a turnover in personnel, a turnover in attitude or whatever. I think there just needs to be a better use of the resources that are available to you. And we just, as fans, need some enjoyment. We're not enjoying our team play football, and that's never a good place to be. So yeah, give me more youth, give me more innovation, give me more freedom, give me more tactics. I want something fun, interesting. It may work, it may not work, but I want to see new players try out. I want to see a midfield of Segovia, Ajala, and Bright. Like, I want those players to work together so that when we go back to having everyone available, playing in important games, everyone can fire on all cylinders, as you said. So I think that's a fantastic silver lining to aspire for. Will it happen? Not sure.
So that's where I'm at. Like, I am not going to be. No one is going to convince me that Mascherano is a good coach. It's just not going to happen.
And I think we should just put that on the record, bro. Now, right? Like, I don't think our minds are going to change. It's long enough now. I think he's a fairly average coach, and that's about it.
Yeah. No one's going to convince me Mascherano's a good coach, but no one's going to convince me that there's no reason to play the rest of the season either.
Yeah.
They will easily convince me the next 4 months don't matter, and I buy that. But once you get out of the World Cup, there will be plenty of things to look forward to and reasons to get up and sort of work your tail off to make it happen. And in the meantime, like, let's have some fun. Let's get healthy as an organization. Let's use the whole roster. Maybe there's some guys that need like a showcase, and maybe there's some guys that can get a move to Europe in the summer that you can like help prepare them for and showcase them for. Like, let's do the things that clubs do that are the models of the rest of the world. And like, we got off track for a little while there, but I think we can get back on track with this lack of pressure that the team's about to face.
Agreed. Here's to that day, man. Here's to that day.
Guys, Inter Miami plays Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. It's at Yankee Stadium, which is the tiny Mickey Mouse field.
So we're going to have a Lion on Sunday afternoon. Hope you guys have a good weekend. And we'll see you on Monday for the post-game episode. No, we will be there.
Last year they won at NYCFC, but that was at Citi Field. That was at where the Mets play. Slightly bigger stadium. Are we still thinking there's like a curse at Yankee Stadium?
100%. We're not winning that game. That's going to be a draw. Unless we put a counter curse on the pitch by putting Berterame up top again. So maybe curses cancel each other out and he scores a hat trick. Who knows? Maybe that's the game that he needs to get his mojo back. Dude, how funny is it going to be if he just comes out against NYCFC and just scores 3 goals? And we're like, where was this when we needed you?
Stop. He can't do that. He cannot do that. You know why? Because Mascherano's not going to be there because he got a red card.
So maybe he does do that. Who knows?
No, like I think for everyone's mental sanity, like I hope he doesn't do that because if he does that and they go scoreless for 4 games without Mascherano, it is going to get ugly. NYCFC has been good this year. I think they have a really good goal differential and they are first in the East with 10 points. But they've played 4 games and the opposition has gotten a red card in 3 of them. They played against 10 men. So I'm not sure if they're good or not. They lost Alonso Martinez, who was their best goal scorer last year. He got an ACL tear, so he's out for the year. But they brought back Thales Magno, who was a big prospect for them a couple years ago. They loaned him out to Brazil for the last 2 years, I think. But he is back with their team. So I guess we'll look more into them tomorrow, but no Mascherano. Hopefully the kids play. Like I'm serious about Messi and DePaul not playing. And Ian Frey, I wouldn't play Ian Frey. Let him go to Jamaica duty. Segovia, I don't think needs to play. Like, give me a 4-3-3 with Yannick Bright, Ayala, and Santi Morales. That would be cool. Silvetti, maybe Allende is a 9. Like, maybe that is something we could try. Or Daniel Pinter starting. I'm all on the Lujan train now. Chugga. So
I think we're done now, aren't we?
There's a reason we don't do an hour and 42-minute podcast. We get silly by the end. Okay, we'll end it there, guys. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this made you feel better. It's certainly, man, I've gone through so much thinking about this team over the last 48 hours, and this is sort of where I've ended up. And so I appreciate you guys listening, and like the fact that I get to have a venting session like this is so cool. And this Driving Dialogue is so cool, and I feel so grateful that we have this. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being a part of this and being in the chat and listening on the podcast and all that stuff, and interacting with us on social media and stuff. It's so cool, and I really appreciate it. And I don't ever want you guys to think that we take it for granted because this is awesome. Saur, I'll let you wrap it up.
The season starts now. Somehow we always find ourselves at the bottom of the pit trying to claw ourselves out, even though we have one of the best teams in the world. Well, in the North American world. It is dark times, guys, but the best part about being a football fan is that good times will always come back. So stick around with us.
I gotta stop you. We can't end it yet. I totally forgot, or have not done this yet. I was starring questions throughout the chat, and I think we should answer them real quick because, again, people are putting them in the chat. So let's just rapid fire through this. Ash says, what can the coaching staff realistically do to never have a game like this again? Change jobs.
Next question.
No, the thing that is upsetting is this is exactly what the Vancouver series looked like last year, and they didn't change. They didn't change. So I don't have any faith they'll change. I don't think they think there's a problem. And
no, the way they can change is genuinely consider different tactics, and the setup needs to change and the philosophy needs to change. There needs to be a fundamental shift in the philosophy of how Inter Miami approaches games. I think there's a disposition towards being defensive.
Stop. He said realistically.
Fair enough. Next question.
Ash says, is there another club that plays this formation style and tactics that we're trying to copy? I don't know if it was in the chat today or maybe
Atletico Madrid?
Pep said, "This looks like Arsenal terrorist ball, just trying to
Oh
survive."
my God,
He
no, no,
mentioned
no,
Getafe, who
no.
I'm not as
Dude,
I'm
they're
not as
top of the
familiar with
league.
Getafe.
No, Arsenal's top of the league.
Sure, I'm not as familiar with Getafe, who I'm sure is not top of the league, but like this tactic is straight out of 2003, and like you're right. Alex Ferguson did this to a Champions League
No,
trophy.
stop. This tactic is straight out of 2003, but in 2003, every single team would be playing this tactic, so it
Right.
would look different.
That's my point. Is like that was almost 25 years ago. It doesn't work anymore, and the reason no one plays this anymore is because it's stupid. This could work. This could work for a team like Colorado, who was trying to eke into ninth place by having a really low amount of goals scored. And if you went and spent your DP money on a goalkeeper and a center back, and like you built your team to be defensive, I still don't think this is the best tactic for that style either. But like the idea that you're going to do this with Messi is insane. Lee says Segovia should have even have been starting. Silvetti should have been. I think this was just like a general talking point that we have to get better in the midfield. And the answer to me is to play Telasco Segovia in the midfield or Ajala, like I leave open the door, or David Ruiz or something else. But play midfield.
Two-man midfield doesn't work. It does not. Like, they've been very good for what they are. Yannick Bright and Rodrigo de Paul have completely maximized their potential as a two-man midfield, but I think we need more. We need more in there.
Well, and you think about it, collectively, they've had 3 mistakes this season. And it's like, if your midfielders are going to have 3 mistakes that cost you games, DePaul had one against LAFC, against Orlando City, and then Yannick Bright on Wednesday night, then the problem is your midfield is just structurally not sufficient. And so
They're playing on fumes.
with how well they've been playing, for you to still have issues in the midfield is just, it's a problem with the formation and the number of midfielders on the field. And also, Silvetti is not the same player as Segovia. And if you treat them the same, you're an idiot. To Mascherano. I say to Mascherano. Sean says, is Berterame signing a reflection of the club, that this club from back office to head coach doesn't know how to evaluate talent?
I think he's a good signing, man. Like, he's a good player.
I can just tell you for a fact, the front office did not expect this team to look structurally like it does right now when they built this team in the offseason a month ago. For a fact. VREF says, what are your thoughts on the away goal tiebreaker rule?
Love it. Keep it. I don't see a reason to change it. Just because it goes against your team doesn't mean it's a bad rule.
I genuinely think it is kind of a dumb thing, but like
I enjoy the jeopardy. I think it adds a certain flavor to the away games. Otherwise, it's just, you're seeing in the Champions League right now that they don't have it, and I think the impetus to actually go out and score in an away game is very limited. Like, technically, Inter Miami should have gone and scored a goal against Nashville, and that would have helped them a lot more. But now teams going away can just sit and absorb pressure and keep it 0-0 and then go home and play accordingly. But I feel like one away goal can just change the nature of the entire tie, and it can really bring out teams and create a really fun tie between two teams. But sometimes it goes against your team and you have to just deal with it.
That's totally cool. Like,
it's subjective.
I still think it's kind of an unfair thing, but I totally get your perspective, and that's fine. But the other thing that I do want to say is, we would never bring this up at this point in time, because the fact that we lost because of it is
we're not sore losers.
That's not. Yeah, we're not going to complain about it for that reason. Lee says certain starting players in this team aren't playing for Messi. That's the issue. Going to my point, I started that because I wanted to say one thing that has been a common theme for Inter Miami is being over-reliant on Messi in the Messi era. And part of getting healthy, I think, is some of these guys playing on the same field as Messi and being able to shine individually, even with him on the field. And with the pressure off for the next couple months, hopefully, there's room for Messi to be the star without other players deferring to Messi or learning how to play their game without sort of solely focusing on Messi. Anyways, that's all I've got. I wanted to make sure we got back to those because I mentioned we would. Guys, it's been almost 2 hours. We're going to end it here. Hope you have a lovely weekend. We'll see you on Sunday. And whoever burnt the popcorn, I blame you as much as Mascherano. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.